Calamity's Brainstorm update is one of the largest the mod has ever seen, and with it came many reworks to many of the weapons the mod introduces. In this video, we will be focusing on the Saros possession line from the Summoner class. This crafting tree only has 4 weapons that we can use for the entire game, which could be worse. Today is such a beautiful day outside. It's 89 degrees. It's nice and bright. The sun is out, which means it's a good day to play Terraria for 12 hours. In addition to the already established weapon restriction, I will be placing a couple extra rules to this run because I'm like that, I don't know. For this run, I will have to defeat all 47 Infernum bosses in order without skipping. I like completion. Completion is cool. I also will not be using any whips or support weapons like Eye of Magnus or whatever. I feel like for minion specific only runs, whips kind of defeat the purpose, as eventually when your minion becomes pretty much useless, it basically just becomes whips only with a mosquito bite here and there. And last I checked, we weren't doing whips only. So yeah, banned. I'm also banning the use of any accessory minions like Heart of the Elements for the same reason. Armor minions though, for the same reason as the last two, I'll try not to use any. But these I feel like are more excusable since, you know, armor is good and I'm like unwillingly paired with these guys anyway. I'm also going to apologize in advance. I do not play Summoner all that often, so throughout this run I will be forgetting about some pretty good stuff. I just thought I'd mention that since Summoner fans don't play about their hyper optimization, so hopefully they'd spare me. Now the early game was pretty slow. This was actually my first playthrough of the update, which came out over a month before I started this, and I generally haven't played Terraria in a few months, so there was a lot I had to both learn and catch up on. One thing I did catch up on was that early game without weapons is pretty fucking annoying. But that doesn't mean I wasn't able to scratch up some gear like a cloud in a bottle, balloon, boots, magluminescence, oh, and a shit ton of life crystals. Okay, so the first weapon we can get is the Sun Spirit Staff. This thing requires some sandstone bricks and 2 Stormlion mandibles. These mandibles are dropped by Stormlions in the underground desert. So, how do I kill these things without a weapon? Well, I could just douse them in lava, but I'm not going to do that because we can actually get the mandibles without killing anything. We just have to find a desert medallion and one of these desert chests. Okay, there it is. There it is. There it is. There it fucking is. Alright. This item summons the Desert Scourge, but we don't care about that. What we do care about though is that the medallion has 2 mandibles in its recipe, which is the exact amount that we need. So we just take this to the Shimmer, which the update helpfully adds a structure as an indicator, and we can just toss this thing into the sparkly syrup to get our Stormlion mandibles. All that's left is to gather a bunch of sand for bricks, and now we have our very first weapon, the Sun Spirit Staff. Before the update, this thing and all of its upgrades used to just shoot one single static beam and could only be summoned once. But now this entire line will instead shoot darts and get much stronger the more you summon it. Kind of like Abigail's Flower or Desert Tiger. Unfortunately, I didn't get any modifier on my craft, and I kind of don't want to fight a goblin army like this, so I reforged by crafting this thing over and over using the Shimmer. Eventually I got Ruthless, but my dumbass wasn't paying attention, so I just settled for Masterful because I got bored and wanted to get a move on. I then went over to the Tundra, where I would kill some Flinks to get myself a Flinks Fur coat, giving me a second minion slot. I'd also craft some Wolfram legs and a hat for a combined 10% extra summon damage. After that I sat on the edge of my world for Goblin Scouts, but before I used the battle standard, I decided to get myself an extra minion slot from a summoning potion. And now I was ready to finally fight a goblin army. The crowd control for this weapon is not very good. In fact, it lacks any, which will be a reoccurring theme with this line, but oh well. Eventually I chipped down the entire armory and found the Tinkerer. Brainstorm has reworked the Reforge system a bit. Most modifiers now could have an extra little benefit to them. For example, you can have 4% attack from Menacing, or you could have 2% with +2 armor penetration from Jagged. But at this point in time, I didn't really care to figure any of that out, so I just went Menacing on all my stuff for the time being. There was one last thing I wanted before I started fighting bosses, which were the Amphibian Boots. My luck was not very good. I was there for a while, and then it started to rain slime. Ah, fuck. You know, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I have water walking. I'll be fine. I'll just keep fishing while my summon does that. Well, that was unexpected. Okay, back to fishing. Amphibian boots have been buffed in the update, reverting them to their vanilla version, as before their jump speed was cut by 20%. They were still really good back then, but even better now, which would fare very well against our next couple of bosses, starting with the Scourge. Not having an arena is kind of inconvenient, so I made one that's completely overkill. Look, I was gonna have to make one of these later anyway, so I figured I might as well get it out of the way now instead of later, so, you know. Our Sun Spirit staff has made some pretty quick work of those first 3 bosses. Surely the damage should begin to fall off now, since this is a pre-boss weapon after all. Brain of Cthulhu is the next boss on our list. Calamity actually reworked this fight, hence the brain in Brainstorm. And since this is my first playthrough of the update, I decided to check it out. But my dumbass accidentally selected just Master instead of Death Mode the first time, but after killing a vanilla brain, I would experience the new Death Mode fight for the very first time. Oh, and of course, since this is an Infernum video, I also fought Infernum Brain. Remember what I said about the damage drop-off? Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. A minute 14 on this guy is pretty damn good still, so I was very confident heading into the Perforators. "3 minutes! I mean, it's not terrible. Also, I just haven't upgraded my gear at all. I could have had obsidian armor since I had tissue samples now, but I forgot about that. My bad. But now that we have access to Aerialite, I can just make armor with that, right? Well, this is the first armor set to have its own minion, and if you recall, I don't want to use those. So I'm only going to be using the headpiece as it's a slight upgrade from my Wolfram one. And I still haven't remembered about obsidian. And then I'd fight the corruption bosses. That's it, moving on. By this time I remembered I could go into the Sunken Sea to get myself a Voltaic Jelly. This thing gives me an extra minion slot and deals a debuff, so that's nice to have for our next boss, Queen Bee, who would be very simple to get to if the update didn't nuke the giant hive under the giant tree. Instead, they made a new specialized hive, which is a bitch to find. I mean, there's nothing stopping me from just making a regular jungle arena and fighting her like that, but I mean, I might as well use the cool new place because it's cool and new. But the search really wasn't that worth it for as short as the fight would be, but, you know, a change of scenery is always nice. She has a new material for us, which could be used to craft our next armor set. And also the Witch Doctor will move in, which will sell us a new accessory that gives us +1 minion slot, which I proceeded to forget about and go straight into Deerclops. "3 minute kill time? I mean, it could be better. Yeah, I wonder why. I'm mostly just used to playing like Ranger or something where there's like barely any gear upgrades to make throughout the entire game, so I guess it can be excused, but at the same time, it's not like it really matters because pre-hard mode is kind of cakes anyway. I don't really need to have like super optimized damage, which is kind of a weird statement because this is a pre-boss weapon and I shaved through Skeletron in just under 2 minutes, damn. Do I need anything from the dungeon? I don't think so. You know, looking back at this footage, it's pissing me off how stupid I am. Like, I'm still wearing the fucking Flinks fur coat on Slime God. Dude. But I mean, it's still not that bad because this weapon is still really good despite me being pretty undergeared by missing out on 2 potential summon slots because our kill time would come out to be 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Not bad. They dropped Purified Gel, which unlike the last material we got, I would actually use this one. I could make some Sagittal armor, but that set has its own minion, so instead I just use the hood and legs. I would also use the gel to mash my Wolfram battery and Voltaic jelly together into a jelly charged battery, freeing up an accessory slot which reminded me about the pygmy necklace from the Witch Doctor. And while I'm on the topic of remembering things, B armor. Yeah, that's it. Sun Spirit Staff still putting up a minute of kill time is pretty amazing to me. Unfortunately now, this is where it's going to start falling off big time. Even though we're now in hard mode, we don't get to upgrade our weapon until after the mech since it requires our souls. But you know what doesn't require any souls? Wait, that segue doesn't even work because it literally does. Give me your soul, pretty please. Anyway, going by boss order, we got 6 guys before this upgrade, so it's going to be a while. But we can still squeeze a little extra power out of this thing by upgrading the rest of our loadout. Summoner Emblem gives us 15% extra damage, and then Spider Armor gives us 3 extra minion slots, along with an extra total of 28% damage. I also freed the wizard because he sells some special candles, but while I was about to make a house for him, I got distracted. My ego says I can, my ego says I can. I then wanted to upgrade my wings, for that I had to fight wyverns, and with our current build, this weapon was doing alright against them. The wings I wanted were the fairy wings. Calamity decided it would be cute to cut all the unique wing stats so I don't get an extra 60 health from these anymore, which is kinda sad. But since these wings are pretty expensive in terms of pixie dust, I wanted to get the battle cry from Fargo's Mutant mod. This thing has water candles in its recipe, which made me remember, oh yeah, the dungeon, and finally got myself a bewitching table. So 5 out of our upcoming 6 bosses are pretty tanky, so I decided to experiment with the Jagged Reforge, which, like I mentioned earlier, only grants 2% damage, but also gives +2 armor penetration. I figured my Sun Staff could really benefit from having armor pen, and after reforging all of my accessories this way, 12 penetration sounded really promising. Also going back to the wizard's candles, I would buy the orange spiteful one since it's got a nice damage buff. And then I spawned a goblin army, and conveniently the warlock spawned right away, and even more conveniently dropped the item I needed, called the first Shadow Flame. This thing gives me another minion slot along with dealing a debuff. So now I'm ready for my first hard mode bosses, starting with the Dreadnoughtalus. Two minutes compared to the last time I did a pre-boss weapon. Surprisingly, we were still getting some pretty decent kill times, but all of that would tumble a bit with Cryogen. This guy is super tanky, so it wouldn't really phase me if the fight dragged on for a while. So now it's mech time. These guys are going to be a real stress test for our little old sun staff because we have a time limit. The mechs can only be fought between 7:30 PM and 4:30 AM in-game, which is 9 minutes in real time. Which doesn't sound like much of an issue since at most we've gotten around 3, which honestly, yeah, wasn't really much of an issue on neither Twins nor Prime. Twins were a little under 4 because sometimes the sun would just not aim at them, and then Prime was a clean 305. But I actually had to remove my summoner emblem on that one for a deep diver dash. So really I should just be chilling on Destroyer. Oh. This worm will spawn probes and my summon will automatically target those instead of the actual guy we want to kill. These probes are pretty tanky, so it's a pretty big time loss here. I mean, yeah, you are able to set the target by right-clicking on them with your minion. But they still really like the probes. I really can't do shit about that. Destroyer is also very tanky anyway, so this one is either not gonna happen or we're gonna cut it real close. So I did some experimenting. I tried using the golf cart to replace my boots and dash, letting me use Summoner Emblem again, but that didn't really go very well. I then tried ditching just my wings, utilizing the flight from my lightning boots and featherfall for my vertical. 340, 74.95%. It's kind of cooked, so I caved. I decided to make the full Daedalus armor set, which does come with its own minion. Maybe even this cutting it close. If this cuts it close, no, if there's like plenty of time. If there's plenty of time before the time limit ends, then I will try to see if I can do it with spider armor and not Daedalus. But if it's cutting it close here, then I'll just take the win. I'll just take it. Okay, you're dead, bro. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. Okay. That 7 minutes, and it's like 3. I think the fight ended at like 3, or maybe like 250 something. I'd say that's cutting it close, cause like what, 4 minutes and 11 seconds at 65.97. Only 3 minutes later, and I win. Yeah. I don't think with my current gear, I don't think I could do that without Daedalus. Oh well. Well, I have all the souls now, so that means I will finally be able to. I don't have a moon. Why does this need a moonstone? It's called a Vengeful Sun Staff. Okay, so after doing a quick solar eclipse for a moonstone, boom, new weapon. There's really nothing all too special about this one. It's just the same as the last, but with better stats, I guess. I don't know. And I'm going to say this now. This thing is going to overstay its welcome. By how much? You're just gonna have to watch to find out. With Scourge defeated, an Acid Rain begins, and I can defeat a Kragmaw Mire to get the Nuclear Fuel Rod, which, you guessed it, gives me a minion slot and deals a debuff. My next fight would be with the Brimstone Elemental, but my recording is all fucked up here, but I mean, it's only Brimmy, so it's not like you're missing too much. A minute 15. The song that I have playing on Spotify started while I was fighting Brimmy, and it's still going. There's like a minute left in this song. With Plantera defeated, I can get a few juicy accessories that would be oh so beneficial, like the Papyrus Scarab, and pretty importantly, Status's Blessing. Guess who forgot about them? Yeah, this fucking guy. Anahita and Leviathan is a pretty simple fight, but then Levi spawns, and despite her being literally in frame, she's just out of range of my Sun Staff. But luckily she does dash at me sometimes, so I'm able to get my damage in that way. A 4-minute kill time, only a couple bosses after acquiring this thing doesn't sound very great, but again, there was a lot of downtime when I couldn't hit a shot. Orius would reassure us that everything is still a-okay though with a 1 minute and 26. And it's by this point that I realize that I still have a battery from pre-hard mode, so I look at Recipe Browser to see if I can upgrade it yet, and see the Starbuster core, which is something I can get now. Yeah, that's it. What, did you think I'd noticed I'd need the other shit I was blabbering about? Yeah, hell no. I have bigger priorities. Like Golem. With the Picksaw from Golem I can mine Scoria, which combined with the Perennial and Cryonic bars, I can make Life Alloy, which I use to combine my battery, fuel rod, and Starbuster core into a Star-Tainted generator. It's now at this point in time that I realize, oh yeah, status. So I do a Pumpkin Moon, get a scroll, get a bug, slap some other junk on it, and boom, status is Blessing. Plus 2 minions and 12% damage. I would also use the Spooky Wood from that event to craft a full set of Spooky Armor, which gives us 4 minion slots and a total of 58% extra damage. Fishron and Plaguebringer didn't really have much to write home about. They died right as they came, so you know. Which leaves us with Empress. I really like this fight, so I'm doing her during the daytime. If only you could hear my reaction to that masterclass gameplay, but unfortunately I forgot to turn on my mic for this recording, and it wouldn't be until much later when I remember about it. Lol. But moving on, Ravager. Yeah, so with Cultists my minions won't target the devotees, so boulders will have to do. Conveniently, the Stardust Pillar spawns right on top of us, letting us use the fragments to combine my Status's Blessing and First Shadow Flame into Status's Curse. I then would take out the Solar Pillar, then the Nebula, but before taking out the final Vortex, I realized I still have 2 more bosses I gotta take care of, so here's that. Surprisingly, the Vengeful Sun Staff was still holding up pretty damn well, so as I took out the final pillar, I could only hope that Moonlord would fall just as quickly. Congratulations, Vengeful Sunstaff! You made it to the third major split of the game. And as such, a huge power leap would take place as our bosses get much stronger. Yeah, we still can't upgrade our weapon. For that, we need Ruinous Souls, which are dropped by Poltergeist, which, going by boss order, is 7 bosses from now. There also really aren't a whole lot of upgrades we can even make in that time frame. I mean, we already pretty much have our final summoner accessories, since these two are going to get fused together later on, so really we just have armor to squeeze out the last little bit of juice in this thing. And for that, I would use the Stardust plate and legs and stick with my spooky helmet. I didn't want to use the Stardust Guardian, and I'll actually still have the same amount of minion slots as I would the full Stardust set, only that I'm missing out on a small percentage of damage, but that's alright. And with this armor upgrade, Dragon Folly surprisingly really wasn't that long at all. I mean, the guy's pretty squishy anyway, but 2 minutes on a post-Moonlord boss is kinda nuts if you ask me. But I knew our next bosses wouldn't be as kind to us. So to prepare, I'd make myself, for my first time ever, Status's Ninja Belt. I haven't used a dodge this entire playthrough so far, and I figured since these fights are going to be pretty long, I didn't want to die and do multiple attempts of them, so taking a free hit would be nice. And Ninja Belt specifically over anything else was mostly just, I don't know, shake things up I guess. I really could have used the Amalgamated Brain, but I saw it remove the 10% damage boost, so I didn't really care. But I failed to read the part where you get 10% summon damage from dodging, so, oops. Look, in my defense, I'm dyslexic, so if there's a lot of words on something, I'm not reading that because I can't. Oh, anyway, where were we? Oh, the added mobility of the Ninja Belt would be pretty nice for our next couple of bosses anyway. I actually overestimated Guardians, as under 4 minutes was pretty good for this mid-hardman weapon, I'd say. But I knew Providence would tell a different story. She's very tanky and very long. She's also got a time limit on her. 15 minutes for daytime and only 9 for night. Both of those have plenty of time, but it's safer and smarter to do the version with more, right? Nah. Again, rip my reaction because this was 8 minutes and 18 seconds of Nighttime Providence with a Vengeful Sunstaff, all on the very first attempt, which, I don't know about you, is masterclass gameplay. But from here in terms of upgrades, there's really nothing to aid us with spreading our Sunstaff any thinner than it already is. I mean, there's Tarragon Armor, which does yield a bit of extra damage, but I lose a couple minion slots, so it's not really worth it to me. But it's alright since Stormweaver is a pushover as always, and was just kind of a drag. I don't think I really need to tell you why. Cygnus is also a pushover, so it should be more or less the same. Oh. Oh no. Oh no no no. Cygnus sucks. Every hit I'd lose a fat chunk of my health. Doesn't help that I'm basically a glass cannon, but it sucked a lot. So remember all that I said about Tarragon Armor? Well, it's not a breaking point anymore because it's pretty tanky. Lesson to be learned with these runs, eventually your fights will drag out a lot, and at that point you can cut back on some of the damage maxing and chip into your survivability. Now on to our third and final sentinel, Ceaseless Void. This one honestly wasn't really that bad. I did have to stick close to it, which kind of messed with my muscle memory since I'm usually as far away as I can, but the range on this minion isn't good enough for that. I did die a couple times and it did get a little close at the end, but that's okay because now I can get to my final boss with this weapon, Poltergast. With Poltergeist defeated, I'd take her Ruinous Souls and upgrade my Vengeful Sunstaff into Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. This thing is a little more unique than the last two. Over time, you'll generate little starbursts, and once full, Sirius will shoot out a pretty powerful death beam. As for other upgrades at this point, I can make Blood Flare armor, but I was a little iffy on the orbiting bombs that you get, so I'd just stick with Tarragon. Which was definitely more than enough for Old Duke. This weapon is pretty good. I like this one. Also, it apparently got nerfed in a hotfix, which was like a 60% damage nerf or something like that, but it's still really pretty good. But now we go on to Devourer of Gods. You might expect since I checked out the new Brain, I'd also check out the new Worm. But no, I forgot about that somehow. I didn't really expect too much out of Sirius on this one since he's very, very tanky and Summoner in general just isn't a Devourer class, but it performed pretty well actually. Just not well enough for me to survive. With the Devourer defeated, the hard mode events each have a new material which can get me plenty of stuff like a Dark Sun Ring for 12% damage, and +2 minions and an Ascended Spirit Essence, which can combine my Starchain Generator and Status's Curse into a Nucleogenesis. I also decided to ditch my Ninja Belt for the Amalgam because now I actually read the entire tooltip and it sounded pretty intriguing. I'd also make some Silva Armor. This thing has a crystal minion, which at this point now I sort of don't care anymore since this thing's gonna be on me anyway when I make Auric, so yeah, GG's on that I guess. And then while I was duping crystals for money, because reforging is very, very expensive, that's when I realized my mic was off. I had my fucking mic off this entire time. I just noticed. After reforging all of my things, I can fight Yaron. Okay. That was... Okay. Like I said, after reforging all of my things, I can fight Yaron. Auric ore spawns in my world now, and with it I'm able to upgrade my Sirius and get my hands on the Saros possession. Everything led up to this very moment. It's a little odd in a way since I've had to use the Sun Staves for quite a long time and I only just met Sirius, but oh well, our final weapon. I'd also obviously make Auric armor, just thought I'd mention that. Saros' possession, as you would expect from this line, is really good. Jared got completely obliterated, which leaves us with just the final 2 bosses. Yep, Unk still got it. Yep, GG's! That was fun. That was really fun. That was really fun. I liked this. I liked this one. I liked this one. This one was fun. Video's not over yet, though, because, as you can see, this thing is a material. Why would it be a material if it's the final one in the line? Because it's fucking not. At the very beginning of the game, one of the first chests I opened had this umbrella in it. My actual... Oh, I just alt-tabbed. My actual final weapon. The temporal umbrella. And now, the first and probably only time ever I will be doing boss rush. Holy fucking lag. What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening? Who is it? Who is here? Dude. I think I broke it. I guess that's it for boss rush. I guess. Yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Yeah. Goodbye. Bye.
I'm like, hey, what's up, hello? Seen your pretty ass soon as you came in the door. I just wanna chill, got a sack for us to roll. Married to the money.